some recent proposed regulations from the Department of Labor that deal with that deal with investment advice. Now, actually they came out. They were originally proposed in 2007, and then they were then they were finalized shortly before the change in administration from the Bush administration to the Obama administration. And because there were concerns with the new administration as to how far those regulations went, they were suspended and then actually revoked, or taken back, and then new proposed regulations issued more recently. The reason that this is still a topic worth talking about a little bit, and we've talked about it in prior employee benefit updates, is because it's certainly important to people who deal with 401k plans, most of which these days give investment decision-making authority to their employees. And yet the employees, if your employees are like the employees of most employers, the employees, they have this power to make their investment decisions, but they don't really don't have good information about what choices to make. They need more help. And so the Congress, when they enacted the Pension Protection Act of 2006, one of the important features was to change the law that would allow for plan fiduciaries, people who have positions of authority over plans, to actually provide investment advice, and to do so in a way that they'd be protected even if they might get some money coming back to them depending upon what investment choice is made by the employees. Previously it had been a no-no, and most employers or their plan providers, more importantly, would shy away. If there was any fiduciary responsibility over a plan, they wouldn't get into the investment advice side of things because they really couldn't legally do that. It would be a form of self-dealing to be able to steer employees toward a certain investment if that investment would put some money into your pocket. So, in an attempt by Congress and the government to loosen the rule up a little bit and figure out a way to allow for good investment advice to be provided to the 401k plan participants, they enacted the law change, and now these regulations are intended to carry that out, that provide for basically two, this slide here just kind of summarizes the history on this, but I'll just go straight to this slide right here. There's two main ways to provide for investment advice in a way that would not violate the law. First way is to do it in a way whereby the compensation back to the one giving the advice is what's referred to as level compensation. And so it doesn't really matter. Your compensation may be a set percentage of the assets that are in the participant's account, for example, or the plan as a whole. And so it doesn't really matter whether the money's invested in investment A versus investment B versus investment C. If your compensation as an advisor is the same across the board, then there's not going to really be an incentive for you to steer the plan participants toward A versus B versus C. So that's one approach that many providers are taking. The other approach is a computer-driven model approach, whereby the advice that is given is driven by a computer, which although the computer itself needs to be set up in a certain way, it would need to be done in a neutral fashion and certified to be to satisfy certain standards too. And so some providers are maybe going that route, although I think a lot of investment advisors have been kind of holding back in terms of doing very much in either of those areas, kind of waiting for these regulations to be finalized. And even right now they're still not finalized. They were just issued just last month in March on a re-proposed form, very similar to the way they were before, but just with a few little changes from the way the Bush administration had done them. So once they're finally finalized, they'll become effective, I think, 60 days after that. And I think at that point, we'll see more and more plan providers offering investment advice services, either freebies as part of the regular services they provide, record keeping and other services to their plans, or maybe as an add-on type service. For those of you that maintain 401k plans, you may be asked by your plan provider, do you want to, maybe pay a little more, have your employees pay a little bit more for this additional service, whereby investment advice could be given to them to help them choose among the various investments. sorry to do this to you, Joan. But since you're here, any additional comments on that from your perspective?
I haven't heard too much lately about it.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's.
If I may interject, Brian, you mentioned employee education, and I just want to announce, you'll see that we are being videotaped in the back, video recorded rather. Videotape, I guess, is an ancient word now. And that's being done by a company called RetireCo, and the representatives are Ralph and Matt back in the back corner. I'm sorry, just in the back row. And one of the things that they do is they do provide online video to employers for employee education purposes. So if you are interested in finding out more about that, you should talk to Ralph or Matt back there. That's one of the things that they do, and I thought it was, since you mentioned employee education, it's a nice tool for employee education.